All right, you guys, one of the big trends is what's in my bag. But for a doctor and for anyone at home, you need to know what's in your box, the first aid box. I think every home should have a well-stocked, regularly maintained first aid box. So I'm gonna go through the one which I have at our home. So the first thing I was gonna say is that when you think about a first aid box, you think about what things you're gonna address. Right now, what we're gonna be talking about is the most common things that we are faced with. And when I think about homes, I think about cuts, I think about burns, I think about allergies, I think about splinters, I think about stings. In addition to that, there's other things that happen like sprains and sports injuries, as well as cooking things. So any activity that you're doing can have some type of injury associated with it. When you extend that to other areas, then you think about things that you get commonly like colds, coughs, headaches, and various other ailments which can be treated with over-the-counter medication. So I'm going to go through a few of these. So let's start. This is my first aid box. And I'll start off with an ice pack. This is indispensable. And this particular one's interesting in that you can take it with travel and all you have to do is twist it and it activates. But in my home, we also keep a few of the filled ice bags in the fridge, in the freezer, just in case we need it. Next, if you have a sprain, the formula is RICE, as you know, rest, ice, compression, elevation. But I always keep 3 sets of crepes, a 1-inch, a 2-inch, and a 3-inch. And I'll show you in another video how to wrap, but these are essential to any home because the number of times you'll be doing sports or doing something else and sprain an ankle or sprain a wrist or do something like that is common. The 3 essentials to cuts are you have to be able to clean it, you have to be able to stop the bleeding, and then you have to be able to dress it. And so if it's something simple, I would just wash it with soap and water and dress it with a Band-Aid and just change that every day so that nothing happens. In addition to that, I would think about using some NEOSPORIN or POLYSPORIN for antibiotic coverage. And if you haven't had a tetanus shot, I would think about getting that as well. Nail cutters are essential to every type of first aid kit because you never know when you're gonna have a nail come partly off, or alternatively, if the nails get very long, you can scratch yourself. So I always keep these in both, or in my regular kit as well as my travel kit. A good kit always has a thermometer. Now these days you can use a digital thermometer which doesn't go in the mouth or any other part. And so we have those for the kids where you have a temple or a forehead temperature. And certainly with COVID, everyone and their brother has one of these remote thermometers, but every first aid kit has one. Next, if you get any type of allergic response or contact dermatitis or other type of itching, a tube of HYDROCORTISONE, 1% is great. Now remember, you can only use this on your extremities and on your main areas. You shouldn't be using 1% on your face. A lower dilution is there and not be used around the eyes. Now with the bandages, as I said with the cuts, you gotta have a way to stop the bleeding. One way to do that is to hold pressure with gauze, but gauze can be used doubly to do that, as well as to use as a dressing. And what I would do is put a little bit of NEOSPORIN on after cleaning it with some type of either alcohol or hydrogen peroxide or soap and water if that's available as well. Then holding pressure to stop the bleeding for 2 to 5 minutes, and then putting some polysporin and dressing either a Band-Aid or one of these for cuts. Now, whenever you have gauze, you have to have tape, and I usually keep a couple different sizes in. There's nothing like good medical tape, and there's this type which is fairly translucent and will not cause any rashes. It's hypoallergenic and basically can be used to stick any type of tape in. And then there's the more common type, which is very sticky and keeps stuff on, but can sometimes cause a rash. An antifungal cream is also a good idea, and sometimes you'll have a powder in your kit. This is the antiseptic, which I always keep in there to clean off everything. One other good thing to have is a tweezer in your first aid kit, because you never know when you're going to have a splinter or a thorn or something which is really hard to get out with just a hand or something like that. This is calamine lotion, which I always keep in my kit because sometimes you'll have an allergy and you need something gentle, and this will not cause any side effects or anything else. Also keep some safety pins. These types of ACE wraps have a clasp on them, but if you lose that clasp, these safety pins are a lifesaver. And honestly, every sewing kit and every first aid kit will have one of these. Now, what are the meds I keep in here? They're all over the counter, and they're things like paracetamol or Dolo or Crocin. In addition to that, I always keep some non-steroidals, ibuprofen or Motrin. And then I also will keep some aspirin. We'll talk about when you can use each of them, but remember, always consult your doctor before you do this, because in certain conditions, like patients with kidney failure and other things, you don't want to be using non-steroidals. And in other conditions, if you have liver problems or other things, you may not want to use paracetamol. So you need to talk to them. Finally, I always keep LORATADINE or CETRIZINE tablets in there, and sometimes I'll put hydroxyzine or another type of anti-allergen. So in addition to everything you just saw, when I travel, I add a few things to it. And even in the local stuff, I also keep a kit in my car. And in that, I put things for mosquito repellent, which are usually lotions that I can rub on, a decent sunblock with 25 or 30 SPF or greater. And then in addition to that, we get these handy povidone iodine and lidocaine, benzothonium, or CETRIMIDE. These are all disinfectants and they work tremendously well. You can also get them in packets, which are just little wipes, and those would work well in your travel kit. And then the last thing, I sometimes take aloe vera gel. Aloe vera gel works well when you have a sunburn or if you've got something that needs cooling and whatnot. It's fairly innocuous, it won't hurt you. And then there's a set of medications that I also take, as well as painkillers like Tylenol and ibuprofen, which we've already talked about. And then in addition to that, I, with doctor's guidance, would take metronidazole or Flagyl with me, or OZ or other things, but you need to check with your doc. So this is what I have in my kits, and this is what I would suggest you have at bare minimum at your home. Now remember, there's a couple of key points. One is you need to check the validity of all the meds that you've got in there, as well as the other things, because every 6 months they tend to turn over and you need to replace that. The second thing is make sure that you have a little instruction kit in there on how to use them, so that if it's someone who doesn't know how to render first aid, they know what to do. So for cuts, burns, sprains and other injuries, you can buy these pre-made instruction kits and you can put that in your first aid kit, so that if it's someone else and not you, maybe the help or whatnot, they can actually take that out and get step-by-step visual instructions. I think every home should have one. I hope this has helped you, and if it has, hit the like button, share it with all your friends so that they know what to do, and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can get my new videos as they come up. Thank you so much for all your support, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.